Imagine a fierce warrior queen with her flaming red hair streaming behind her as she leads an army of 230,000 against the might of the Roman Empire. This is the true story of Boudica, the Celtic queen who nearly drove Rome out of Britain. A queen, a mother, and a rebel, Boudica's story is one of betrayal, vengeance, and ultimately tragedy. Boudica's name itself means victory in ancient Celtic, a fitting moniker for a woman who would become a symbol of resistance. But what events could turn this allied queen into Rome's most formidable enemy? Let's explore the intense days of Roman Britain. In 43 CE, the Roman Empire under Emperor Claudius invaded Britain, a land of diverse Celtic tribes and rich resources. By 871 AD, the conquest had been largely completed across the southern half of Britain, encompassing most of England and Wales. The conquered territory became the Roman province of Britannia. The Iceni, one of the Celtic tribes, were based in the region now known as Norfolk, northwestern Suffolk, and eastern Cambridgeshire. They existed during the Iron Age and early Roman era, and initially maintained a somewhat peaceful relationship with the Romans due to a wise agreement made by their king Prasutagus. But who was this woman who dared to challenge the greatest empire the world had ever known? Little is known about Boudica's early life, but we do know that she was born into the Iceni tribe and married Prasutagus, the king of the Iceni. Together, they ruled as nominally independent allies of Rome. They produced some of the earliest known British coins. They had revolted against the Romans in 47 AD, when the Roman governor Publius Ostorius Scapula planned to disarm all the peoples of Britain under Roman control. The Romans allowed the kingdom to retain its independence once the uprising was suppressed. In 60 or 61 CE, King Prasutagus died. He left his estate jointly to his daughters and the Roman Emperor Nero in his will. Prasutagus hoped that this arrangement would maintain autonomy for his lands and family. Rome had other plans. Ignoring Prasutagus's will, the Romans annexed the kingdom. They raped her daughters and subjected Boudica to flogging, a brutal punishment where she was hit repeatedly with a whip or stick. The Romans seized Iceni lands, treated the nobility as slaves, and plundered the kingdom as if it were a conquered territory. This brutal treatment was the catalyst for Boudica's rebellion. For Boudica, the answer was clear. She wanted revenge. As Roman oppression grew, Boudica didn't stand idle. She drew inspiration from Arminius, who drove the Romans out of Germany, and their ancestors, who resisted Julius Caesar in Britain. She rallied not just her own Iceni tribe, but also neighboring tribes like the Trinovantes. With an army estimated at 230,000 strong, Boudica struck while the Roman governor Gaius Suetonius Paulinus was in the midst of a campaign on the island of Mona, now modern Anglesey. His original objective was to target the Druids believed to be inciting rebellion against Roman rule. This attack on a sacred center of Druidic life certainly inflamed anti-Roman sentiment among the tribes, contributing to the widespread support for Boudica's cause. The Druids, with their significant political sway and ability to tap into the emotions and beliefs of the people, would have been important figures in rallying the tribes and providing spiritual and strategic guidance. Picture the tribes gathering under the cover of darkness, whispers of rebellion spreading like wildfire. Boudica performed a form of divination before the revolt, summoning Andraste, the British goddess of victory, by releasing a hair from the folds of her dress and interpreting its direction. Divination is the attempt to gain insight into a question or situation through an occultic standardized process or ritual. In many ancient cultures, including those of the Celts and Britons, animals were often used as omens or signs from the gods. Boudica was seeking divine support and legitimization for her cause. It was a way to rally her troops and instill in them a sense of divine purpose and hope for victory. Boudica's forces launched devastating attacks on several Roman settlements, among them Camulodunum, now known as Colchester, where they massacred thousands and burned the temple of Claudius to the ground. Afterward, her forces marched on Londinium, now London, and Verulamium, present-day St. Albans, mercilessly setting the cities ablaze and slaughtering those who couldn't flee. This wave of destruction sent shockwaves through the Roman administration. Archaeologists have found a layer of burned debris in London dating to this period, physical evidence of Boudica's destructive march. Beneath the city, there exists a layer known as Boudica's layer. This stratum consists of reddish-brown ash interspersed with scorched fragments of Roman pottery. As the flames of Londinium reached towards the sky, word of Boudica's rebellion spread throughout Britain. The Roman governor Gaius Suetonius Paulinus was forced to abandon his campaign in Wales and rush back to face Boudica. Despite being vastly outnumbered, Suetonius chose to face Boudica's army in open battle rather than retreat. What would you do if you were facing an army more than 20 times the size of your own? The exact location of the final battle is unknown, but it was likely somewhere along Watling Street, a major Roman road. Tacitus reports that Boudica rode her chariot through the ranks before the battle, urging her troops to fight for their freedom. Imagine the tension as these two armies faced each other, the fate of Britain hanging in the balance. Suetonius chose his battleground carefully, selecting a narrow gorge with a forest behind him, which protected his flanks and forced Boudica's forces into a frontal assault. The Romans, though heavily outnumbered, used their superior discipline and tactics to devastating effect. They launched volleys of javelins into the tightly packed Britons, followed by a charge in a wedge formation that broke the enemy lines. The Celts, trapped by their own wagons, were massacred. Approximately 80,000 Britons are said to have died in the decisive battle, compared to only 400 Romans. This brutal defeat marked the end of organized resistance to Roman rule in southern Britain. The aftermath of the revolt was significant. The Roman army routed the remaining rebels, burned settlements, killed the survivors, and took slaves. Famine destroyed many more, as Boudica's army had deprived the area of much of its agricultural produce. Moreover, the local inhabitants had failed to plant, harvest, or store up supplies for the winter in the year of the revolt. The exact fate of Boudica is unknown. Some sources suggest she took poison to avoid capture, while others imply she may have died from illness. Despite her defeat, Boudica's rebellion was so severe that Emperor Nero considered withdrawing from Britain entirely. After the suppression of Boudica's revolt, there were significant changes in Roman rule in Britain. The Romans learned that suppressing the conquered people would lead to rebellion and unrest. To govern effectively, they had to work with the Britons and show them the benefits of being part of the Roman Empire. Under the governance of new officials like Trebellius Maximus, the style of government changed dramatically. The Romans began to rebuild the towns and cities that had been destroyed during the rebellion. Funding for these constructions came directly from Rome. To avoid burdening the Britons with additional taxes, the Romans also made efforts to win over the Britons to the Roman way of life. By 63 AD, tribal attitudes were abandoned, and the benefits of peace and civilization were recognized. The Romans took this opportunity to move the capital south to the better-placed Londinium. This change in governance helped to ensure no further rebellions took place and marked a period of relative peace and stability in the province. As the dust settled on the battlefield, Boudica's story was far from over. Roman historians like Tacitus and Cassius Dio preserved Boudica's story, albeit from a Roman perspective. Boudica's story was largely forgotten during the Middle Ages, but was rediscovered during the Renaissance when Roman texts became more widely available. In the 19th century, during the reign of another powerful queen, Victoria, Boudica became a symbol of British nationalism and imperial power. A bronze statue of Boudica in her war chariot stands near the Houses of Parliament in London, a testament to her enduring legacy. From Celtic queen to rebel leader, from forgotten figure to national symbol, Boudica's journey through history is as complex as it is fascinating. Her story of resistance against overwhelming odds continues to captivate us, serving as a powerful reminder of the indomitable human spirit. If you've been inspired by Boudica's story, why not delve deeper into the history of Roman Britain? There's a wealth of fascinating stories waiting to be discovered. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more journeys through history. Until next time, remember, history is not just about the victors, but also about those who dared to resist.